Palmetto, Florida, a community assessment, presented by Gina Galing, RN PCCN, on September 29th, 2020. A historical overview. Palmetto was established in 1868 by a man named Samuel Sparks Lamb. It received its name according to his state of residence, which was South Carolina, aka the Palmetto State. It officially received its charter to become a city from the governor in 1897. Palmetto gained popularity due to its expansive waterways. It was more than enough to lure yachtsmen to the area for work and leisure. One example of their popular waterways would be the Manatee River. Initially, Palmetto was dependent on their waterways for import and export. With the development of the railroad, though, however, this shifted. This allowed the city of Palmetto to receive access to improved building supplies such as brick. With supplies more readily available, local builders were able to build stronger buildings, outlasting the threat of destruction from fire. Mr. Lamb would go on to donate pieces of his own property to help foster future growth in the community. The population of the community. Population of Palmetto is roughly 12,606, according to the Census Bureau from 2010. The population density is roughly 2,300. The majority of the population of Palmetto are persons ages 65 and older, which account for roughly 26% of the population. Of this population, 45% are employed, while the other 9.1% are unemployed. The rest are retired. 76% of the population of Palmetto is considered below the poverty line. Community structure. There are roughly 6,700 housing units in Palmetto, according to Town Charts 2020, with roughly 31% vacancy. During the windshield survey, I observed many mobile home communities. A lot of these were 55 and up communities. There were condos and waterfront homes available. I did not see any apartment complexes. I did see some communities that had a lot of older, more run-down homes, abandoned houses, boarded up. There were a couple of, you know, middle to upper class communities available. There were at least 54 churches I saw when I did a search of the Palmetto area online. Of these groups, I did note that there were quite a few denominations represented, including Church of God, non-denominational, African Methodist, Baptist, Southern Baptist, Seventh-day Adventist, Full Gospel Baptist, Pentecostal, Presbyterian, United Methodist, and Roman Catholic. Palmetto House is a facility. It is a 44-room temporary housing facility developed to help members of the community who've lost their housing establish a more permanent form of housing. So it gives them a place to stay, but they also help them look for a more permanent form of housing so that they don't have to stay there forever. There is a waiting list. There's a women's shelter. Unfortunately, it is not located in Palmetto. You have to go to the neighboring city of Bradenton to receive that service. There are various grocery stores, gas stations, and convenience stores in the area. These include Publix, CVS, Walgreens, Winn-Dixie, Dollar General. The grocery stores typically close by 10 o'clock, whereas a lot of the convenience stores are open around the clock. CVS, Walgreens, they're open 24 hours, and they also offer pharmacy pickup services along with Publix. There are several private clinics in the area offering general health services, chiropractic services, women's services, and dental services. There's a community-based animals service department. I did see there were a few yoga studios. I believe I drove by one gym. Transportation services, a lot of the transportation in Palmetto is private transportation. However, there is a public bus transit system for their members. Overall road conditions were good. I did not see a lot of road construction during the windshield survey, and I didn't see any potholes or cracks or compromised integrity to the road. Community concerns in Palmetto, as far as the population goes, there's a high unemployment rate, there's limited shelters, there is a high elderly population in the Palmetto community, and there was very few rehab facilities, very few long-term care facilities available, which can be a problem when you have an aging community. Eventually these members will not be able to live on their own and take care of themselves, and this community doesn't offer a lot of places for them to go when that time happens. Health concerns, there's a high poverty rate. When there's a high poverty rate, the health of the community is impacted. There's roughly 16% of the community that have less than a ninth grade education, and only a 35% graduation rate in the community. Communities with a low educational background are shown to have higher risk for health issues due to lack of education in the health aspect, but also a lack of knowledge when it comes to understanding health information and getting a job. There's no major hospital in Palmetto. It is just over the bridge, but depending on where you live in Palmetto, as it's a vastly growing community, you might be, 30 to 45 minutes from the nearest hospital. So that is a concern. According to Healthy People 2020, I was tasked with determining at least three goals that would be applicable to this community. The first one that struck me as important for Palmetto is the goal of improving access to healthcare that is both comprehensive and quality. The reason why I picked that for this community is because there's a high rate of poverty in Palmetto. There are, I believe, two communities that offer, two community clinics that offer services to their members that are on a free or sliding scale level. But if you need more comprehensive care, such as cardiovascular care, if you're having a heart attack or a stroke, if you have any kind of neuro issues going on, anything that requires a specialist is going to require these members to travel to Bradenton, to Manatee Memorial to receive these services. Another one that struck me as important for Palmetto is, according to Healthy People 2020, a goal is to ensure local health agencies have infrastructure to provide essential public health services. Again, the community lacks a local hospital, which requires the residents to travel for more comprehensive services. Palmetto could really benefit from having a hospital located in the community, even if it was on a smaller scale, that offers their members, access to these comprehensive services without having to travel so far. Another goal is to improve the health and function and quality of life for older adults. The reason why I chose this is because there is a high elderly population in Palmetto. With an aging population, it means that there's going to be a more increased risk of developing health issues, decreased mobility, and all of these things, illness, inability to care for oneself, those things are going to inadvertently affect the quality of life. The environmental aspect of Palmetto, it's very aesthetically pleasing when you're driving through. They have at least 10 parks, I believe, when I did my research on the community. The, like I said, the roads are in good condition. They are some of it is on the water, so that's very nice. Again, like I said, there are some abandoned, rundown houses. This could pose a threat to the community. A lot of older infrastructure is still there. Downtown Palmetto is a cute little community when you're driving through. A lot of these old shops have that vintage appeal when you're driving by. As far as government and public policy go, the city of Palmetto typically, from reviewing their budget, it looks like they spend a lot of money towards community improvements, buildings such as public libraries and schools. They just recently built a new high school that they're quite proud of. They do have resident events that are located pre-COVID at the recreational center. The local government meetings, you used to be able to attend them in person, but right now they are holding them virtually and they're allowing residents to register and join the live stream. There's also a platform for those that can't participate on a live um, aspect where they can leave a comment that expresses their, question that is a question and or a concern that they would like addressed. This obviously is a barrier for community members who do not have access to a computer or internet, so that's something to consider. However, this is a very strange time trying to navigate through COVID, so I anticipate in the future that this will not be the new norm, and community meetings will be open to the public again. The community needs assessment for Palmetto, with the high unemployment rate and the high poverty rate and the homeless population rate, I think that finding, creating more jobs and community services that are dedicated to helping the residents with job placement is very, very important. Again, there is only a few shelters, primarily Palmetto House, which is only a 48-bed facility, and there's a waiting list. So there's definitely a need for um, more shelters for the homeless population in the community of Palmetto. Other services that would be beneficial for serving the homeless and or those living in poverty would be the development of food banks. Like I said, when I was driving through, I did not see any apartment complexes, and a lot of the poorer, more rundown houses. I think that this community could definitely benefit from more income-based housing, building apartments or townhomes that cater to those that are on a low income status. Development of more residences aimed at serving the elderly population, such as more skilled nursing facilities, more rehabilitation facilities, and more assisted living facilities. There's definitely a need. When you do a search for Palmetto and you look for skilled nursing or assisted living, there's quite a few in the area, but they're in the surrounding area. They're not actually in Palmetto. So these residents are having to relocate to new places, new cities, and towns when they are not unable to care for themselves anymore, or they require a little bit more assistance in maintaining their independence, such as like an assisted living facility. There's definitely is a need to provide better access to healthcare services. They do have a public transport system, but it's not free. So if they could offer free transportation to community members based on a low income or no income status. I mean, these people, there's with the high unemployment rate, the high poverty rate, paying for something such as a bus ticket to get to work or a bus ticket to get to the hospital across the bridge might be something that just isn't possible. So, these residents aren't able to seek the care that they need due to a lack of transportation options. And again, there is a low graduation rate. 16% have less than a ninth grade education, and only 35% of the population even graduate high school. So developing educational programs aimed at helping kids stay in school would definitely be of benefit. Studies have shown that communities with low education rates just kind of breed this vicious cycle of poverty. And that concludes the